Could it be? But me, your mate, Louie T, welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. And this is a bit of a remix. Obviously, holiday weekend. I literally just got in the house about 30 minutes ago. So haven't been able to get in the office good, set everything up like I normally would, bells and whistles, all that good stuff. But you know I've watched football all weekend long. So I've got a lot to say. We haven't talked basically since Thursday, really. So for all intents and purposes, we've got some catching up to do. We had football on Saturday, we had football on Sunday, and we had a classic tonight. The schedule is set for Week 18. If you just missed this, so the NFL has set up a Saturday now with ESPN where they can flex the most important games of the week to Saturday in Week 18. That's what they've done effectively. And they had options this year. In most seasons, you've got one game that's going to have divisional impact and implications with two teams playing each other, that winner takes all, loser goes home, or winner takes the division, loser goes to wild card, that sort of thing. Last year, we saw it with the Vikings and the Lions. Winner wins the division, loser drops to the 5th seed. We've got 3 different games that are going to decide the division. I think this Week 18 slate is, to me, the perfect way to sum up what has been one of the most bonker seasons we've ever seen in the NFL. Injuries, teams coming out of nowhere, crazy performances. Anybody can win the Super Bowl. No Patrick Mahomes, no Joe Burrow, possibly no Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen and the Bills don't look like a legitimate threat in the AFC, but you just never know, right? In the NFC, anybody can win it. It's wide open. It's anybody's game. Same with the AFC. There's a chance that we could have 6 different combinations of 1 seeds in both conferences. I mean, it has just been crazy, nuts, just pure, unadulterated cinema. That game tonight was pure theater. It was cinema at its greatest. You talk about the NFL, you talk about why we love it. Tonight was one of those nights as to why you're going to miss this shit 6 weeks from now when it doesn't exist. You can talk about, the NFL is rigged and all this bullshit that people talk about when their favorite team loses or don't like the outcome of a game. You're going to miss this shit when it's gone. Appreciate it. You got 1 more week of a full slate of NFL games next week, and then it's just playoffs. And then there's nothing but NBA action for your ass. So you better enjoy it, okay? Tonight was outstanding. Today was outstanding. So let's start with tonight's game. I want to talk about the implications, the ripples of what happened tonight, and then we'll go from there. First, let's talk about the Sunday Week 18 slate. So next weekend, the NFL, you dirty dick dastardly bastard you. I was really looking forward to Seahawks 49ers on Sunday Night Football next week to end the season. But I told my dad and my sister when we were watching the game today, I said, they're going to give us Ravens Steelers. We don't want the shit on Sunday night, but we're going to be forced to watch it because, quote unquote, it's one of the best rivalries in the NFL. They're going to force that shit down our throats. And what did we get? Of course, we got of course, we got Ravens Steelers. For all the marbles, winner goes to the playoffs, will host the playoff game. Loser goes home. Of course, we were going to get that one. But we get Panthers and Bucks to kick off Saturday. We had a doubleheader on Saturday. Panthers, Bucks, 4:30 on Saturday. Winner wins the division. Loser goes home. Cap off that Saturday night doubleheader with a gem. The number 1 seed on the line, 49ers and Seahawks. I actually think that, look, we know all the other games don't matter for these teams, right? What it will effectively do, however, is it will set up a situation where the number 2 seed, well, you know what? None of that matters now, does it? Because the winner of this is the 1 seed, and the loser becomes a wild card automatically. So it doesn't matter. Does not matter. Seahawks win, they're the number 1 seed. 49ers win, they're the number 1 seed. Rams have no say-so in this. Rams can't be the number 1 seed now. Rams can't be the number 2 seed. So there's that now. Bears have to win next week to get the number 2 seed because the Eagles, they beat the Eagles earlier, and if they get to a tiebreaker situation, they'll have the advantage over Philadelphia. But both teams right now are 11-5. So guess if the Bears win next week, they'll be playing the if I'm not mistaken, they'll be playing the Lions. Isn't that a coincidence? I think they'll be playing the Lions to wrap up their season because they've already played the Packers twice. They've already played the Vikings twice. So my guess is they'll be playing the Lions for a chance to be the number 2 seed in the NFC. Because they've already played the Packers twice. They've already played the Vikings twice. So it's got to be the Lions. Meanwhile, the Eagles will be playing the Commanders. Both of those games will take place at 4:25, which me and Rio were talking about a week ago, and he was like, we probably going to end up on 4:25 because the Eagles. I'm like, man, no. Don't do that shit to me. We don't need a 4:25 kickoff against the Eagles. After that, I want my 1 p.m. Get the shit out of the way. Get this season over with. Nope. Now the Eagles are playing for something. And with that said, that game matters. So they're going to have that game going up against the Chicago game at 4:25 on Sunday afternoon. So now that becomes a big draw on CBS. So the stage is set. You get Panthers, Bucks to kick off Saturday. Division on the line. Winner takes all. Winner goes to the playoffs, host a playoff game as the number 4 seed in the NFC. The loser goes home, right? I'm rooting like hell for the Carolina Panthers. Then you get the nightcap. Wow. 49ers, Seahawks. Winner is the number 1 seed. Loser drops down to the 5th seed in the NFC. So that's a massive game with huge implications. Then Sunday, you get a whole slate of 1 o'clock games, but the real action is at 4:25. You got Commanders, Eagles. That's going to be for the number 2 seed, along with Bears and the Lions, among other games that are going to be at 4:25. Jaguars have to have a tilt. I think against the Tennessee Titans, if I'm not mistaken. Meanwhile, Houston has to play Indianapolis. You know, if Jacksonville loses, Indy win, and Houston wins, they win the division. So you're going to have some of that going on. There's several situations that are like that. But this is going to be a fun weekend of football nonetheless. But let's talk about tonight's game, because I think this is in the candidacy for game of the year. It's got my vote. And I saw somebody in the comment section say, oh, no, hands down, Seahawks and Rams was the best game. Nope, this one was better, because Seahawks and Rams was an ass kicking for 3.5 quarters before the Rams imploded, right? That wasn't a great game throughout. That was the Rams kicking the shit out of the Seahawks for 3.5 quarters. And then magically, the Rams took their foot off the gas pedal, and the Seahawks pressed every right button, including getting some help from New York with a crazy-ass 2-point conversion that we've never seen before. So that wasn't that, and that was a great ending. That was a fun ending to a game. This was the best game we've seen all season. We've never seen, and they told us this, and we know this. We've never seen a game be 7-7, 14-14, 21-21, 28-28, 35-35. We've never seen that before. Never. Right? This game was literally back and forth. It started with fireworks. The first play of the game was a pick six. From that point on, Brock Purdy went to work. He was surgical. He puts in work. Doo-doo-doo. When my dog puts in work, Brock Purdy put in work tonight. He was spectacular. So to watch this game go back and forth, to see Caleb Williams make some plays, Caleb giveth, Caleb taketh away. We'll talk about him and his night tonight, but he was fantastic, was Caleb Williams. It was just fun to see these young quarterbacks dueling back and forth. The 49ers, be damned if they can't play some defense, boy. They can't play defense to save their life. But that offense right now is humming. It's one of the best in the league. You know how I feel about Kyle Shanahan. And with all the injuries, no George Kittle tonight, lost Trent Williams very early in the game, no problem. They still had this shit rolling and clicking on all cylinders. Boy, let's talk about this game. So I just talked about the start to this game. It couldn't have been any more, dreadful if you're a 49ers fan. The pick six from Brock Purdy to get this thing kicked off. And you're just thinking to yourself, for all of the shit that they did last week against Indy, are they about to come crashing back down to earth? Because remember, Purdy's riding the hottest streak of his career right now, right? You got to remember, Purdy, a couple of weeks ago, started this ridiculous streak that he was on where he's just tearing shit up. He's slipping, he's falling, he can't get up. He's slipping, he's falling, he can't get up. He's slipping, he's falling, he got to get up, get back on his feet so he can tear shit up. Because he was injured this whole season. And he's like, damn, I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up, man. This toe is kicking my ass. I'm slipping, I'm falling. I got to get up, get back on my feet so I can tear shit up. And now he's back on his feet and he's tearing some shit up. They had a game about, 3 weeks ago. Brock Purdy, responsible, I think it was against Arizona, responsible for like 4 touchdowns. The following week against Indy, we watched this one on Monday Night Football. Brock Purdy responsible for 5 touchdowns. Was just out of his gourd last week. He did throw the interception late, but he was just tremendous. Then this week, he throws the pick and you're thinking, uh-oh. Is this the Brock Purdy we saw against Carolina earlier in the season where he threw 3 first-half picks? Is this that guy about to show up? Nope. He shucked and the beauty of Brock Purdy, and I think this is the growth that we're seeing and the maturation we're seeing from Brock Purdy now, is that he's made enough mistakes in his career. He's been criticized. He's been talked about. He's made the mistakes in critical situations. He's been in the NFC Championship game. He's been in the Super Bowl. He's made mistakes in those games. He's been there. He's done it. He's seen it all. He's unfazed by mistakes. He's unflappable. Like, Brock Purdy isn't shaken to his core by a mistake. There are certain quarterbacks where you see if they make a mistake, they wear those emotions on their sleeves. You can see those mistakes wearing on them and it taking a mental toll on them. Brock Purdy is one of those Joe Flacco type quarterbacks where he's got the uncluttered mind, right? He's unflappable in these types of situations. He just threw a pick. Brock Purdy doesn't give a shit. He comes back out and he is firing the football. And Shanahan went right back to work. They went right down the field. They scored a touchdown. And it became the Brock Purdy show. Starring Brock Purdy, co-starring Christian McCaffrey, and with guest appearances by Ricky Pearsall and Jake Tonjes, right? Like, this shit was a great production. As I said, pure cinema, right? Theater at its best. And he was dealing tonight, man. Let me look up these numbers. At one point, he was 20 of 27 for 2 touchdowns, and about 260 at one point. But that was before he led them on that final game-winning touchdown drive. So that number is definitely was not his final total. So let's see what that final total number was. 80 total points in this game. Incredible. 24 of 33 for Brock Purdy. 3 of 3 passing. 3 touchdowns. The 1 interception, as we just talked about. Only sacked once in the game. And then he rushed for another 2 scores, accounting for 5 total touchdowns. Yet again, second week in a row, he accounted for 5 touchdowns. This last 3-week stretch for Purdy, I don't think you can play the quarterback position any better than we've seen him play it. And to lead this team down the field, like, just put it in its proper perspective. The 49ers punter, all right, for the first time tonight, Thomas Morstead saw the field for the first time in the month of December. Realize that it's December the 28th, okay? It's the first time that Thomas Morstead saw the field. It's the first time he saw the field this month. So, incredible. That's how efficient this 49ers offense has been this month. They were incredible in today's game, and it was good to see Ricky Pearsall get his shit off. And I remember saying he made his first catch of the game, and he got up slow, and I was like, this dude here, man, this guy here, he can't stay healthy to save his damn life. Like, they need him tonight. No George Kittle. Trent Williams went down. They need Ricky Pearsall tonight. And boy, did he show up big or what. He was fantastic. Juwan Jennings was quiet the entire night. He makes a massive catch and run for the touchdown to give them the lead. Jake Tonjes made some huge plays tonight. He was spectacular. They spread the wealth around. Shanahan, once again, in his bag. The bootlegs, the screen game. When they went to the drop back game, and then when it wasn't there, Brock Purdy's legs to extend plays, that touchdown pass that he threw to Kyle Juszczyk. What are we doing here, folks? What is Brock Purdy gotten into? What is he on right now? Because this is a different guy, man. He's in the zone. That shit was a thing of beauty. Oh, man. Purdy was in his bag, and then Christian McCaffrey. You know, one thing that people fail to realize about this Chicago Bears defense is that at one point this year, they were the worst run defense in football. Historically on a pace to give up the most yards in a single season on the ground. Per average, they were giving up the most yards of any team in the NFL per carry. And they turned their run defense around right around week 6 against Washington, and they got significantly better. But this is a defense that we've seen, get gashed. Like, you can run the ball against the Bears. They've been better, obviously, of late. But you forget that this is an imperfect Bears defense. They mask a lot of their deficiencies with turnovers. And you don't have to be perfect on defense if you're creating the amount of turnovers that the Bears are creating. Like, they've created 32 takeaways this year. That's a total that I think my favorite team has. I'm not sure we've created 32 turnovers in the last 2 seasons combined. They've done that this season with a game still left to play. Like, they're incredible at taking the football away. And if not for a hands to the face penalty and there were some big penalties in tonight's game and some big plays being made, but if not by another hands to the face penalty by CJ Gardner-Johnson, there's a 33rd takeaway. And this outcome of this game is totally different because the 49ers, you take a touchdown off the scoreboard. That's a pick thrown by Brock Purdy. But this Bears defense, if they're not taking it away, you can move the football and score on them. And we saw that from San Francisco tonight, but you got to credit. It's not like everybody's moving the ball up and down the field against this Bears defense. You got to credit the 49ers and the game plan and really Kyle Shanahan, man. When he's locked in, he's one of the best to do it. And he was dialed in, man. The boots, the play action, the getting the pocket moved, it just made it so hard for the Bears to lock down and nail down where Brock Purdy was going to be all night long. And so when you run that boot and it looks like Purdy's coming out the back door because that's what he's done all night, now the defense gets to flowing that way. And then I said, look at Kyle in his bag. Late in the game, he throws the screen back to Christian McCaffrey, and I go, oh, that was gorgeous. You set that up all night, didn't you? Yikes. Gotta love it, man. Christian McCaffrey, 181 all-purpose yards tonight. He was spectacular. When you look at this 49ers team, 140 yards for McCaffrey rushing and a touchdown, another 41 receiving. I don't think he's going to make it to 1,000 and 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving, which he'd be the only back in NFL history to have done it twice. It's been done once by just him, Marshall Faulk, and Roger Craig. If I'm not mistaken, those are the three that have done it in NFL history. He was trying to become the only guy to have ever done it twice. I think he's going to fall probably, my guess is 75 to 50 yards short receiving. But added another 41 tonight, 181 yards on 27 touches. Like, he was insane tonight. And you could tell he's not 100%. He's on the sidelines. It's the second week in a row we've seen him on the sidelines grimacing, but he's a workhorse. He's an Iron Man for this 49ers team. And he was incredible. Pearsall, as I mentioned, incredible. And guys just stepped up. Tanja stepped up. Jennings stepped up. Juszczyk stepped up. Everybody played their part, starred in their role tonight. Wow, this 49ers offense is really fun to watch. And they're not even completely healthy, right? No Kittle tonight, no Trent Williams tonight. That's something to keep an eye on in terms of Trent Williams in particular, because what you don't want to do is risk him getting injured and not having him when you really need him, which is the playoffs. But boy, you would love to have that number one seed. Can you afford to rest him one more week, get the number one seed, then he gets the bye week, and then he'll be totally healthy, ready to come back for the divisional round? I mean, if you're the 49ers, you got a chance with the Super Bowl being at Levi Stadium. You got a chance to never have to leave Santa Clara the rest of the season. Think about this. If you can get it done next week, you've positioned yourself to never have to leave home again. Never have to worry about traveling to some cold weather climate, dealing with inclement weather, rain, all kinds of dumb bullshit. You can stay in the comfy confines of Levi Stadium the remainder of the season, deal with 50 to 60 degree temps, and chilly is, the temperature dropped to 54 degrees. I need my jacket. Like, that's what you want. You don't want to be dealing with that bullshit we see on the East Coast. Buffalo was basically dealing with sleet the entire game against Philadelphia today. That field was soaked. Carolina's game was just nasty all game long. You don't want to deal with that bullshit. And you don't have to if you just take care of business. You've set yourself up. What a win. And look, this is a much maligned defense. They're not great. They have the least amount of sacks by a mile this season with no Bosa. And they lost Michael Williams relatively early in the season as well. So they have no pressure really whatsoever. Bryce Huff is the one guy that can get pressure, and teams know that, so they chip him and they do things to disrupt his rush. So they really don't have a consistent pass rush, and the only time that they really truly generate pass rush is when they blitz, and they don't do it very often because they don't want to put their back end at risk and expose guys one-on-one looks, because you don't want to give up chunks. You really would prefer to force teams to drive the football down the field methodically, because in this league, something's bound to happen. An incompletion, a batted ball, a penalty, something could derail the drive. And so you just keep making them snap the football in hopes that something goes awry. That didn't happen today, right? Obviously, the Bears were able to convert. Even when they got themselves into a little bit of a jam, they were able to get out of it either with a penalty on the 49ers that would bail them out, or they would go for it on fourth down and convert and keep the drive alive, whatever the case may be. That's their big Achilles heel right now. Like, they stopped the run pretty solidly tonight. They had their few moments where they gave up some runs and some chunk plays in the run game. The Swift touchdown comes to mind in particular. But for the most part, they did a really good job of bottling up the Bears run game and kind of neutralizing it and forcing Caleb Williams to have to beat him. But he was dealing tonight. He missed some throws. We'll talk about that. But he was dealing most of the night. And so you got to tip your cap to the Bears for executing the way that they did. But ultimately, when your defense had to have it, it wasn't pretty, but it was gritty. And most importantly, it yielded a dub. They got the stop when they had to have it. And I think the big play defensively on that last stop was the lateral, right? They tried the little hook and lateral, and I saw it work earlier today, right? This is a Ben Johnson staple. He ran it in Detroit quite a bit. It always worked. It usually yields a touchdown. The Bills ran it today against the Eagles. It worked like a charm. Big gain, massive gain, down the sideline and out of bounds to stop the clock. All that good stuff, right? Generally, because that guy on the outside is going to bite, right? His first inclination is to go and try to be in the action on the hook. And then that lateral comes out, all your momentum is going towards the football. And then all of a sudden, this guy running full speed, they pitch it to him, and you can't turn, change directions, redirect, and get to the football. But credit Lenore for staying outside, keeping contained, and being ready, because he turned that run back inside to where his help was. And what that also effectively did, because the Bears had no more timeouts, is it forced the Bears to basically limit themselves to one play. You give up the touchdown there, you lose the game, obviously. But you also stopped him far enough away from the end zone where you couldn't do a quarterback sneak or something cheap that you could spam and get into the end zone with. It was just a great defensive stop. You set yourself. I thought Kyle, he ran all the way down to the official. I thought he was going to do something that I didn't think he needed to do, which was call a timeout, because the Bears were scrambling. They didn't have a chance to set their offense for Ben Johnson to get his best play in. Don't call a timeout. Don't let them set up, right? No need to get a mental picture of what they're doing so you can try to make the perfect defensive call, because now they're going to get their best offensive call. Now they're scrambling. They got to hurry up, make them make a play. And Caleb tried to go off script. Great defensive discipline by the 49ers to stay plastered to those receivers, to not give Caleb, because Caleb bought a ton of time on that final play. He rolled out. He, broke a tackle, essentially jumped over a tackle attempt, a sack attempt, got outside, backpedaled, made a guy miss. And that play had to last every bit of 6 to 7 seconds. So for them to stay plastered, for Caleb not to see someone come wide open, is a credit to the 49ers in that end zone. What a defensive play. They didn't make many of them in the game, but when they had to make them, they got the stop on the possession before to force the field goal, which was huge, because up until then, there were no field goals in this game. Each team had scored nothing but touchdowns to force them to kick that field goal. And Chris Collinsworth, he's been on a heater here of late. He said it during the telecast. If you have to settle for a field goal here, the likelihood is San Francisco is going to win this game, because they're probably going to go down and score a touchdown. You got to find a way to score if you're the Bears, score a touchdown. And if you're the 49ers, if you can hold them to a field goal, that's a massive win. And they did that. And then they got the ultimate stop on the following possession after their offense went down and got it done. So, look, we can talk a lot about this 49ers defense not being great, because it is not. We've seen that each of the last 2 weeks in particular. We've seen that they have a lack of pass rush pretty much all season since they lost Bosa. But they made enough plays when plays had to be made in this game to win it. And you got to credit them for that. On the flip side of this, and now they're just one game, just before we move on, and now they're just one win away from the number 1 seed in the NFC, and all roads leading to the Super Bowl, where they don't have to leave their house at all if they win next weekend on Saturday versus the Seattle Seahawks. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Who would have thought the 49ers would have been in this position early in the season with all the injuries that they had? I don't want to say we left them for dead, but they were an afterthought. Now look at them. On the flip side, Chicago, what more can I say? What more can I say about the Bears that hasn't already been said, man? This Bears team is so fun to watch. They're amazing, man. You can never count them out. These Bears are like it's hard to explain because I've been saying this about the Bears since early in the season. I think it was I'm trying to think of the first game that they did this in. It was before the Raiders game. It was whatever the game was before the Raiders game was the first time I saw them do this. And I was like, then they turned around and they did it again against the Raiders. And then they turned around and did it the next week against Washington. And I just remember they did it the first time when they came back and won a game they had no business coming back and winning. And then they did it against the Raiders. And I remember the Commanders were the next game. And I said, I'm not comfortable with them having the ball last. If they get it last, they're going to come back and they're going to win the game. And then the Commanders had the fumble, the Bears got it last, and they ended up kicking the walk-off field goal and winning. And from that point on, I just always felt like the Bears were going to find a way to win. And they did it against the Bengals. They did it against the Giants, and they did it against one of the most improbable comebacks we've seen all season. They did it against the Green Bay Packers, and I just knew they were going to do it again tonight. Once they had the football and Caleb converted not one but 2 fourth down conversions on that final possession, I just thought they were bound and destined to win this game. And I'm like, how can you keep leaving Colston Loveland open? You know that's his go-to guy. It's been his go-to guy in those situations all season long. They had a critical third down against the Commanders earlier this year. I think it was a fourth down, as a matter of fact. And he went to Colston Loveland. In that Cincinnati game when they needed a play at the end, he went to Colston Loveland. He broke the tackle. He ended up running for the touchdown, and they won the game. Like, when he needs a big play, he's looking for 84, who was tremendous tonight. What's the numbers for Colston Loveland tonight? So Caleb Williams was 25 of 42 for 330, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. They ran the ball effectively. Monungai 8 for 38. Swift 9 for 54. They just didn't run it a ton. But Burden obviously was the star of the show from a receiving standpoint, but he had a big drop. And Loveland was outstanding. He was a co-star. Burden 8 for 138 and a touch, but he also had the big drop. Loveland 6 for 94 and a touch, and he too also had a big drop late. But when you talk about this Bears offense, they're so multifaceted and there's so many weapons. Similar to San Francisco, there's so many weapons, so many guys that you can get the ball to, but the Bears have more, right? They're just loaded. Like, they didn't even, you forget DJ Moore was even on the field tonight. Like, he was non-existent. They did all of this without their quote-unquote number one wide receiver, and they had no issues moving the ball up and down the field like it was nothing. And credit Ben Johnson, credit Caleb Williams, because he made some of these plays with those off-schedule escapes out of the pocket, etc. But again, Chris Collinsworth, I've said this, he's been really hot the last 3 weeks. Like he said with Brock Purdy, he was like, if the play that Brock Purdy made, that incredible touchdown throw to Kyle Juszczyk, where he eludes a rusher, dips back inside, goes back outside, then tosses it to him, Juszczyk, for the touchdown. He said, we would have been going crazy if that was Patrick Mahomes. He said, okay, I would have been going crazy if that was Patrick Mahomes. Good self-awareness. I'm glad he said that, because that he absolutely glazes Mahomes, and for good reason. Mahomes is the best we've ever seen. But Purdy's play was crazy, but Caleb Williams was making some outlandish plays like we always see him do outside of the pocket. But for every one of those incredible throws, he had a throw to Loveland, I want to say, up the left sideline, where you just go, oh my God, that was gorgeous. The touchdown throw to Loveland was incredible on the free play. He had one to Burden over the top. Oh my God. Just Beautiful. For every one of those throws, though, there's that miss where you're like, Caleb, bro, why are you throwing that at 99 miles an hour, bro? Just put some touch on that, throw that, it's wide open. And there were a couple of misses where there is nobody around. Like, they could have won this game. He missed Devin Duvernay on a play where he rolls out. And yes, he's drifting backwards, but Caleb's got a strong enough arm that if he just put some air on that thing, like there was no 49er in sight. He just gets it to Devin Duvernay. It's a walking touchdown. Like there was no 49er in the screen. When you look at the replay, there's no 49er in the screen. He's got at least 10 yards of grass between him and the next 49er defender. Caleb's just got to get it to him. It's a touchdown on that final possession. They probably win the game. He had a miss to Colson Loveland. Same type of situation. It wouldn't have been a touchdown, but it would have been a massive game. Now, they scored on that possession anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it's those types of misses like, Chris Collinsworth said, like, you can't miss those layups in the postseason. You can't win a Super Bowl if you're missing those types of throws, because when you play the best competition, like the 49ers defense isn't good. So you can get away with that, overcome it, still score a touchdown, and end up scoring 35 points and almost winning the game, 38 points and almost winning the game. But you're playing against Philadelphia, you're playing against Seattle, you're playing against one of these better defenses. You don't get many opportunities like that with a guy wide open. You have to hit it. And Caleb will miss, and Caleb is so schizo in that way. Because he'll make one of those throws and it'll drop your jaw and you'll be like, oh, shit. And then he'll miss a layup and you'll go, Caleb, bro, what the F? He was spectacular tonight, though. I mean, yeah, there were some misses in there. There was some hits in there, too. And he's one of the most slippery guys, man. He's hard to get down on the ground. He's another one of these Baker Mayfield types, undersized, but kind of that thicker frame where it's just tough to get these dudes on the ground. And he's so elusive. He's way more athletic than I think people give him credit for. He was outstanding. He made every throw tonight except, the one that they needed, the one throw they needed. And again, I can't even beat him up too bad because he threw a dot to, and again, they overcame these. But what would the situation have been had these catches been made? And what would the run after those catches have been? Because they couldn't tackle Luther Burden tonight. If Burden catches that ball out in the flats, is he able to then juke that defender, get up the field? Who knows what happens? Loveland had one where he dropped it, and that could have been another opportunity for, him to turn up the field. There were so many questions about, oh my God, the Bears took Loveland as the first tight end in the draft. How could they take him over, the Penn State tight end? And I'm a sucker for athletic tight ends. I just am. And although you could see that the Penn State tight end, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but I'm going to go grab it real quick. Even though here we go. Tyler Warren. Even though you could see Tyler Warren was going to be a problem in the NFL, I'm just a sucker for the athletic tight end. I just am. They get me every time. And Loveland was my number one tight end in the draft because I was like, he wasn't utilized the way that I think he should have been at Michigan. They didn't throw it to him enough, but he's going to be a weapon. And the Bears, Ben Johnson saw it. He knew, like, this is my guy. And Loveland is turned into an animal. He's going to be up there with Trey McBride when this thing is all said and done. When we start talking about the best pass-catching tight ends in the league, you're going to look up, and it's going to be Trey McBride. It's going to be Colson Loveland. And we're going to rattle off, Brock Bowers. It's going to be like an elite crew of these young tight ends that come in that are absolute game changers. And he's going to be among that list of guys. He's fantastic. And You had to know that Chris Collinsworth was going to jinx him, right? Because he said after he made that the first fourth down conversion, he's like, Colston Loveland hasn't had a drop all season. He's the best in the league at not having a drop of all tight ends. Never had a drop all season long. Most catches without a drop. Most targets without a drop. I was like, oh, you pouring that sauce on thick, my man. He's about to have a drop. Of course he was going to have a drop after that. And I was waiting for Collinsworth to say, he hadn't had a drop all season, and I jinxed him. I was waiting for that because you absolutely jinxed him. But he was fantastic tonight. So was Burden. And yeah, he had a drop there late, but he was spectacular. He was the guy that I wanted my Commanders to draft in the second round. And I couldn't understand how Burden got to the second round. His combine wasn't super impressive. But if you watched him, I'm like, you've seen all you need to see with this kid. He's going to be dynamic at the NFL level. And damn if that's not the case. He looks the part. He is what I thought he was going to be, and even then some, right? Because I thought he was going to be more of a gadget guy until he learned how to be a technical route runner at the receiver position. He's already doing route runner things already. He's stretching the football field vertically, which wasn't something you saw him do that often at Missouri because they used him underneath so often. He's the complete package that you're looking for a young receiver. And he's developed quite nicely. And they've got a nucleus of young wide receivers in Chicago. No Rome Odunze tonight, and they were able to put up 38 points. I was having a conversation, and you guys can tell me what you think about this. I was having a conversation with one of my buddies the other day, and he said that he thinks the Bears are going to cut DJ Moore after this season because they have a wealth of riches at the receiver position. And as we saw tonight, and I was like, no way. DJ Moore is their number one wide receiver. There's no way that they're cutting DJ Moore, right? The Bears aren't strapped for cash, but they've spent quite a bit of it over the last couple of years. They could use a little extra cheese on the side if they can cut some, a corner somewhere. And I'm like, they're not getting rid of DJ Moore. But when you watch games like tonight, you see the emergence of a Luther Burden. You already know what you have at the tight end position. Between Cole Kmet, you got Durham Smythe now, two Notre Dame tight ends, and then, of course, Colston Loveland. And then you got Rome Odunze. You got Burden. You got all of these young. You see what Jade is doing at the receiver position as well. Like, that's an undrafted rookie that I'm pretty sure they feel like Jade Walker is a guy that they can count on and rely on moving forward. Like, they like this kid. They may get to the point where they're like, yeah, we don't really need DJ. We don't need to pay DJ Moore $20 fill-in-the-blank million a year. We're good. I don't know if that point is reached this offseason. That was a conversation that was brought to my doorstep. I wasn't going for it, but then I watch a game like tonight, and I'm like, interesting. Now, Burden did get hurt at the end of this game on that final play, had to be helped off the field. I think he's going to be fine. We don't know the extent of the injury, obviously. They already lost one player tonight. They lost Sewell, the linebacker. That didn't look good. It looked like he might have popped his Achilles tonight. You hate to see any injuries that occur in a non-contact variety. He started reaching for that Achilles area. He had to be carted off. And he's just one of those hard hat, lunch pail type linebackers that you need. So that could be a big loss for them defensively. So hopefully Burden is okay because he wasn't able to get up at the end of the game. And all of the chaos that ensued when that fourth down was not converted. So that kind of got lost in that shuffle. But Burden has been fantastic for them. And so just a little food for thought with that DJ Moore conversation. But you guys can do the dishes. The bottom line is the Bears are an imperfect defense. I think you can move the football on this defense. While they can get pressure on the quarterback, that's not one of their specialties. Their run defense is, it's meh, right? But where they shine, where they're at their best, is forcing turnovers. And that's what they have done all season. They did it again tonight. And the key for them, I believe, is, and I think they kind of got away from it a little bit tonight, they have to run the football to kind of have more control over the pace of the game, time of possession, etc. Kind of felt like this game turned into a shootout, Wild Wild West style. And while the Bears can engage as they showed tonight, and we've seen them engage in this with Cincinnati and other teams and end up winning those games, they've also shown us that at their core, they can beat you up and bludgeon you to death like they did Philadelphia, right? We've seen them do that. Just beat a team up physically, mentally, and bully them. They're capable of doing that as well. And that's playoff football right there. This shit that we saw tonight, it's cool, it's flashy, it's fun, but that ain't playoff football. You ain't beating nobody 42-38 in the postseason, more likely than not. I'm not saying it can't happen. It's just less likely to happen in the playoffs. And they had success running the ball tonight. I'd like to see them, be a little bit more dedicated to the running. Normally, that's not a thing you got to ask Ben Johnson to do because he likes running the football. But for some reason, it felt like maybe he felt the pressure of what the 49ers were doing. And they got into a rhythm. They couldn't stop Loveland. They couldn't stop Burden. So they got into a rhythm. So throwing the football was working, but it didn't feel like there was that balance. They had 22 runs tonight in a game that they were never out of. They had 22 runs. And keep in mind, 5 of those runs were Caleb Williams runs, meaning these weren't designed runs. These were Caleb Williams scrambles off of called passes. So in essence, there were 17 running back runs. There were 42 pass attempts by Williams, 47 called dropbacks. That's a discrepancy that we really haven't seen from Chicago's offense this season. And there was no need for it because the game was never out of control, right? It was 7-7. Bears actually had the lead 7-0. It was 7-7. Then it was 14-7. Then it was 14-14. Then it was 21-14. Then it was 21-21. Then it was 28-21. Then it was 28-28. Then it was 35-28. Then it was 35. So it was never, ever a 2-score game at any point for either team, either way. So you were never out of it. You could always run the football. And the run was working. So there was never really a reason for them not to run it more. They just didn't. But you're going to have to protect this defense come postseason time, I believe. And the way to do that is, look, if they're creating turnovers, they'll protect themselves. But if they're not, they're a liability. And the way you protect them is by playing ball control offense, which you're fully capable of doing. You've shown us that you can do that. So we'll see what happens. This is a hell of a game. Valiant effort. They did not get enough stops. They hurt themselves with penalties. There were some crucial penalties in the game, none bigger than the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson penalty with the hands to the face that negated his interception in the red zone that would have wiped away a scoring opportunity for the 49ers in a game that you lose by 4. That proved to be super costly because they ended up scoring a touchdown about 3 plays later. So big penalty there, but valiant effort by the Bears, man. They always make you work all the way down to the last second. You just can't ever count them out. You can never count them out. But this loss does come with a price. There is a penalty to this loss if you're the Chicago Bears. Now, the number 1 seed is no longer within reach. That's an afterthought. Now you've got your eyes set on the number 2 seed, and now you've got to win. And look, Dan Campbell as well as anybody if you're Ben Johnson, and he would love nothing more than to spoil your opportunity at the number 2 seed by beating you and at Soldier Field in Week 18 to end their season. Their season is done. They're not going to the postseason, but they would love nothing more than to affect yours on the way out. They put up 50 on you earlier this season, and I know Ben Johnson has not forgotten that. that they put a 50 piece on his head. So that's going to be a fun one to see. If you're the Bears, you're in the driver's seat. You win, you're the number 2 seed. Simple. You win, you're the 2 seed. You finish the season at 12-5. Eagles can only finish at 12-5, but you beat them head to head. You own the tiebreaker. So for all intents and purposes, win and you're the 2 seed. Win and you're the 2 seed. Lose that game and all hell breaks loose. You'll be the 3 seed, and now you basically get one home game, and now you got to go on the road more likely than that. So we'll see what the Bears decide to do, or decide to do. We'll see what the Bears are capable of doing. We got to talk about the Saturday football. I mean, we probably could go back and talk about some of the Thursday football. We really don't need to. But definitely got to talk about the Saturday football and then what happened on Sunday. So we'll go ahead and get a quick word from our sponsor, come back on the other side, and then we'll get to some of the Saturday action, some of the Sunday action, and then we'll get to your comments. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips, play in fantasy leagues, and win real money on pick contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper. All right, shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the stream. If you're not on Sleeper, great opportunity to do so. They've been handing out some big opportunities over the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 days, man. A lot of 100% matches, 50% boosts, 100% boosts, 75% boosts, 60% boosts. They've been boosting their tails off here lately. So if you're not taking advantage of the opportunity, you should. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the stream once again. But on Saturday, we saw 2 games with massive playoff implications. Chargers, Texans was huge. Texans still have an outside shot at winning the AFC South division. It's amazing. This was a Texans team that we absolutely left for dead. They started off the season 0-2, I think. Then I think they were 1-3. Then I think they were 3-5. And after that 5th loss, we definitely buried them. They haven't lost a game since. They've won 8 straight now, including the win over the Chargers on Saturday afternoon. And that game started with fireworks. 2 C.J. Stroud darts to start. And then the offense just pretty much fizzled out for the Texans. But that defense, we've talked about it. They don't have to do much. That defense, I think it's the best defense in football. And so you put up 14 right out of the gates. I'm not saying that that's enough. You don't have to do anything else, but that defense is capable of making 14 points stick. Like I've said this, the thing that's so frustrating about the Texans, and usually this is the case, you rarely see an elite defense the caliber of the Texans paired with an above average offense. It's usually a elite defense with a average to below average offense. That's always how it goes. You can't have the best of both worlds because then you become a cheat code, and you rarely get cheat codes in the NFL anymore. So their defense is on another level. They're on a new level. They're on a new level. And that 14 at the beginning of the game, I was like, shit, the Chargers are in trouble. And they were. Trouble. But they hung in. The Chargers, got to give them credit defensively. They settled in, got some stops, and made this thing a ball game. And I was shocked because, you know, there's certain things that you just don't expect to happen in a game. There's certain things you do expect. There's certain things you don't. Like if I'm watching a Raiders game, I expect a Geno Smith interception to be thrown at some point, maybe even two. It's Geno Smith. That's a thing that I expect when I watch the Raiders play football, right? When I watch the Chargers play, I expect their kicker, Dicker the kicker, to make his kicks because that's just what he does. There's certain kickers where you go, huh, he missed. Didn't see that coming. Brandon Aubrey, one of those guys. When he misses, you go, huh, didn't see that one coming because you just expect him to make his kicks. Dicker the kicker pretty much sold the Chargers. He missed a field goal. He missed an extra point. They lost the game by 4 points. Well, there's your 4 points. But that Texas defense, as I said, they basically told the Texans offense, you get me 20, I'll get you a win. And that's usually how they operate most weeks. You get me to 20, I'm probably going to be able to get you a win. Just give me the 20 points. So the Chargers are, to me, one of the biggest enigmas in the AFC side of the bracket because Herbert's dealing with the hand. And while he's been able to gut it out, he's a tough son of a bitch. The man he's still not even a month out from surgery, right? He's still playing his way through a hand that's not fully healed. And while it's not really compromising him throwing the football, it's still something you have to deal with. Every time he gets hit, every time he braces himself for a fall, every time he runs, there's a chance that something could happen to it. It's just it's there. It's a problem that continues to exist. The offensive line is a problem with the Chargers. Like you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig, right? Like they've done their best this year to patch that offensive line up. They've had so many injuries, and they just continue to have more injuries. It's just like, when will they stop on the offensive line? My gosh. So it's frustrating if you're a Chargers fan. It's got to be because they can't protect Justin Herbert. And it's just crazy because now Ladd McConkey has become an afterthought. And the things that we thought we could count on from that offense, you're not seeing it consistently anymore. So they're a team I really don't know what to expect because defensively they're solid. You know, they don't do anything great necessarily, but they do a lot of things solidly. But as we saw early in that game, they can give up a big play or two. So they're an enigma. The Texans, I've already pretty much explained to you why I don't see them advancing as far as they probably could, is because I don't trust their offense. I'll take their defense 10 times out of 10. Their offense leaves a lot to be desired. And all it takes is for them to run up against the right team, and that 8-game win streak goes by the wayside. But they've got a chance. It's an outside shot. They're going to need some help from the Titans. Titans will play the Jags. They'll need Titans win over the Jags. The Jags loss, basically, a couple with a win. Indianapolis will be playing the Houston Texans. So the Texans beat the Colts. The Jags lose to the Titans. Voila. The Texans, who were left on the canvas early in the season, Mike Tyson style, looking for their mouthpiece, would have gotten up off the canvas, you know, Chico style. Diego Corrales, may he rest in peace, and come back and win the fight. They got a shot. It's a long shot. Gonna need some help, but it's a shot nonetheless, and that's all you can ask for. Chargers can't win the division. The AFC West has been clinched by the Denver Broncos now. Chargers no longer in the running for the #1 overall seed. All of that is gone. They are now a wild card. And now the question now is where they end up in the wild card seeding, fifth, sixth, or 7th. And that will determine where they go in wild card weekend. And we still got so much to sort out on both sides of the bracket. We don't know where these teams are going to end up. We don't know who the 1 seed is in either conference. We don't know who the 2 seed is in either conference. Nothing is etched in stone right now. Here's what we do know in both conferences. This is the only thing we know in both conferences. We've got 2 divisions up for grabs: the AFC North and the NFC South. Whomever wins that game is going to be your 4 seed in each conference. That's all we know right now. That is the only thing that we know in either conference. Other than that, all this shit is still up for grabs. Everyone's jockeying for positioning. And so I love it. I love it. I love where we sit right now and how much change can happen next week with the games. So that was the first game on Saturday. The nightcap kind of helped set the stage for, the Sunday nighter next week, Ravens and Steelers. The Ravens had to do their part first, and they needed some help because they lost last week, did the Ravens, to the Patriots, a game that they were up and had. By losing that game, they basically put themselves in a position where they needed to win out, and they needed the Steelers to lose out. So they had to handle the first order of business, which was going on the road and beating the Green Bay Packers on Saturday night. And they're going to have to do it without Lamar Jackson. He was out of the game, suffered the back injury against the Patriots the week prior. He was not able to go. The Packers were dealing with, a quarterback injury of their own. Jordan Love also dealing with an injury, was not able to go. Remember, he left the Bears game with a concussion, and in came Malik Willis. I said, during the telecast, because I was live during that game for a good bit of it, watch Malik Willis cook, because Matt LaFleur is like that. And Malik Willis came in and he cooked last week, and they just didn't do enough on special teams, of all things, to secure the victory. But or defense for that matter. But really the special teams just recover a damn onside kick and the game's over. But like Malik Willis is a capable backup in this league. So you got the battle of the backups, and it really just, Malik Willis was outstanding. It really was Derrick Henry, right? If not for the Baltimore turnovers in the first half, if not for the Green Bay turnovers in the first half, I think the Packers are probably leading this game, and the score looks totally different at halftime, because the Ravens were up 10 at the halftime break. But instead of them being down, or Green Bay at least having the game tied or something of that ilk, they were trailing because of the mistakes that had been made. They were right there, but it was the Derrick Henry show. My God, today, for all of the mistakes Henry has made this year, all the fumbles, all the questions that people have had about him and ball security, they leaned on Derrick Henry. And when they had to have it the most, he came up huge. His 7th 200-yard rush effort of his career now puts him at the top of the list in NFL history. He was tied with Barry Sanders and O.J. Simpson with 6. He had his 7th on Saturday night. 226 yards on 20, I think it was 20, 31 carries? How many carries was it? It couldn't have been 20-something, because that would have meant he was averaging 9 yards a carry, 10 yards a carry. He did not average that many yards per carry, but he was damn good, that's for sure. Let's get the exact numbers. 36 carries, 216 yards, 4 touchdowns. He averaged 6 yards a pop. He was outstanding, man. But the 4 touchdowns is the part that blew me. Like, golly. He was everything for the Ravens. Carried the day, put them in a position now where they've got a legitimate shot to win the division because of what happened on Sunday. So let's go to Sunday. For Green Bay, real quick. Valiant effort by Malik Willis. I'm not sure that they still don't find a way to come back and win if he stays healthy, but he ended up getting hurt. And that put a damper on that game. So Love will be back in week 18, I feel like, but tough situation for Green Bay because this was a team that just two weeks ago was in the hunt for their division, wasn't out of the hunt for the number 1 seed. All of that stuff was still in front of them. And then, the tough loss against Chicago, the loss against Baltimore, and all of a sudden you go from, hey, still an outside shot at the number 1 seed to, hey, you might be the 7th seed in the playoffs. Like you angling at having to play the Eagles in week 1 in wild card weekend if they get the 2 seed. You might have to play the Bears again in wild card weekend if they get the 2 seed. That's kind of where you trending right now. So crazy turn of events for them. They got to get healthy. That's what Green Bay has to do. They got to get healthy. Josh Jacobs was a non-factor in that game. I know he's been dealing with a myriad of injuries, but this man had 1 yard rushing at halftime. What did he end up with? Like, it couldn't. Shit, he didn't have much more than that at game's end either. Josh Jacobs, 4 carries, 3 yards. Like, you're not gonna win shit with Malik Willis being your leading rusher by a mile. Emmanuel Wilson, 3 carries, 16 yards. Josh Jacobs, 4 carries, 3 yards. Like, who you beating doing that shit? And it's not like this Ravens defense is this elite unit. This ain't the 2000 Ravens defense. Yeah, they're going to have to get their shit together. Green Bay is really, really struggling right now. So you fast forward to Sunday, and we had some really fantastic games. Browns Steelers. It was good stuff, man. 13-6. Steelers fall at Cleveland. I think the number is something like Mike Tomlin is now 1-6-1. His last 8 trips to Cleveland. So it's been a house of horrors for Mike Tomlin. I remember telling y'all they could lose this game. Remember, I said they went to Cleveland last year in the snow, and Jameis Winston got them on a Thursday night, I believe it was. So it's not surprising that they got here. But they really missed DK Metcalf. That last possession, he's throwing up a back shoulder, basically, go get it 50-50 ball in the end zone to Marquez Valdez. If that's who you're throwing that football to, you already lost the game. And that's where they are without DK. So credit the Browns. Great defensive effort. They got after Aaron Rodgers. They made him uncomfortable. They kind of shut down the run game and forced Rodgers to have to beat him, and he wasn't capable of doing that. But more importantly, they got out to a lead. And this is what I always talk about with teams that are inferior, that have nothing to play for but pride. You want to stomp on them early because the longer they're in the game, the more confidence they gain. And the Browns jumped on these boys 10-0. And I've said this about Tomlin this season. I've felt like he's allowed Aaron Rodgers to dictate to him decisions that we know in past years Tomlin wouldn't make. Earlier, when they were over in Ireland, he let Rodgers talk him into going for it on a 4th down, when if they would have just kicked the field goal, they would have basically put the game out of reach. And it almost came back to bite them in the ass, because if the Vikings had gone down and scored a touchdown, they would have won the game. It worked out, so no harm, no foul. But I just thought, why are you going for it in that situation? Take the points. That's what you've done in the past. That's who you are at your core. Anyway, fast forward to present day. They had an opportunity to kick a field goal. I think at that time the score was 10-6. That would have made it 10-9. Or at that time it was 10-3. They went for it. They didn't get it. And it's not like it was 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. It was like 4th and 4, 4th and 5. It was a sizable 4th down. Like, what are you doing? Kick the field goal, bro. They went for it. They didn't get it. Or it was 4th and 1. My bad. It was 4th and 1. It was a long one, though. And Rodgers went for the end zone. He didn't get it. Take the points. Like, you know what type of game it is. You know what the Browns games usually are. You know the Browns ain't scoring a bunch of points. You could have field goaled these boys to death. This was the type of game you could have beat them with 5 field goals. We know Tomlin he'll beat you with 5-6 field goals. He don't give a shit. This was supposed to be a 5 field goal game, beat them 15-13. Instead, he let Rodgers talk him into going for it. They went for it. They didn't get it. And then they came back and got the field goal on the next possession. And so had they kicked it on the last possession, it would have been 10-9. And then they had another opportunity right before the half. And so you see all these missed opportunities, and also their kicker, Chris Boswell, struggles at Cleveland. Like, they showed his numbers. Everywhere else, this man is damn near automatic. In Cleveland, he struggles, and he struggled again. He missed 2 kicks today. So again, wouldn't have mattered. 2 more kicks wouldn't have won them the game. They still would have lost by 1. But it's the decisions to not kick the field goal and then couple those with the misses that cost them this game. But you got to credit Cleveland's defense, man. You say what you want about their offense. Their defense is like that. And they know how to play the Steelers. Family business. I talk about it all the time. If it ain't your family business, stay out of it, because you just don't know how this family business is going to go. And the Browns winning put the Steelers in a position now where they have to win in Week 18 to secure the AFC North division. A loss against Baltimore, and the division goes to the Ravens. So winning, you're in. Losing, you go home. Winner takes all. Sunday Night Football next week. Ravens, Steelers. I knew they were going to do it. Patriots destroyed the Jets. We don't need to talk about anything other than this. Drake May is squarely in the MVP discussion with his performance. He was masterful today. Drake May, 19 of 21, 256, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. 5 touchdowns for Drake May. He was sipping Gatorade on the sideline by the time we got to the end of the third quarter. This game was out of hand, basically at halftime. Drake May continues to be a star, and he is squarely in it. And I think the pressure's now on Matthew Stafford. I think that's the guy that's kind of standing in the way. If Stafford goes, because here's the thing. May does this, and it's the Jets. It doesn't matter. Still, it's the Jets. Don't care. It's a massive performance, and the numbers are starting to pile up. But if Stafford can go out on a big stage, once again, final Monday night game of the year, and put that exclamation point on it so people remember, hey, I was the one that was killing it all year. I've been the one that y'all been talking about is the MVP of the league. And then you leave them with that lasting image of you. Because, again, I was talking to Rio today, and Rio said May the MVP, and I'm like, nah, I think it's still Stafford's award. But I would tell you this. If the Patriots somehow get the number 1 seed, which is very plausible, Chargers play the Broncos in Week 18. Don't know if the Chargers will be playing to win that game or not. They can't win the division, so Chargers may say we're gonna rest Justin Herbert. He could use the rest. And some of the other guys, Thule and Khalil Mack, and some of those other guys could use the rest. They may rest some of those dudes, but if they go out and they play their starters and the Broncos aren't able to get it done, Patriots get the number 1 seed. And if Drake May leads the Patriots to the number 1 seed, I think he's the league MVP. Stafford can't lead the Rams to the number 1 seed now. That's out of the window. So I think that's the only thing that he could have as an upper hand over Stafford. If they're both wild cards, well, excuse me, the Patriots are a division winner. Rams won't be, but they play in the toughest division in football. So theoretically speaking, they might have one more win because they're at 13-3. The Rams, if they win, they'll get to 12-4. They probably have one more win than them, but the difference between the records of the two teams and the success is it's not that different, right? What is different is if they get the number 1 seed. That changes everything. So, we'll see. If Stafford goes out and he just has a ho-hum game, I don't know. Doors are open. It's slightly ajar. Yeah. Slightly ajar. Stafford goes out and has a 4-touchdown, no interception performance against the Falcons, which is a damn good defense. And they go win that game 31-13. I think that's the exclamation point that Stafford needs to put this thing away and put it in the bag. But, man, Drake May's having himself a year, boy. Tell you what, he's squarely in that MVP conversation. Saints, Titans, Saints win. Don't look now, but the Saints are on a 4-game win streak. Yikes. Jags, Colts. That was not a pretty game by any stretch of the imagination on either side. For any of you out there that is, I've heard a lot of people say this over the last 2 weeks. Phillip Rivers should really think about coming back next year. No, he shouldn't. This was cute. It was, out of sheer necessity. The man is 44 years old. He looks 44 years old. He did extraordinary things for a 44-year-old who played no football in 5 years competitively. But this shit is done. Okay, it's done. But shout out to Phillip Rivers though. He played his ass off for a guy who hadn't played football in 5 years at the age of 44 years old. But Trevor Lawrence played well, but he leaves a lot to be desired. He had the interception today. It was a bad interception. It was a really good play by Jermaine Pratt turning and locating the football, but it's an interception where you go, come on, Trev, bro, it's first down. You don't need to do that. And if you're going to try that throw, better ball placement, my guy. But he ran it in twice in this game, did Lawrence, and the defense stepped up. They were the reason they won this game, not the Jags offense. The Jags offense, I felt like, left this door wide open for the Colts to steal this game and really make things interesting in this division. But Phillip Rivers threw a back-breaking pick like he did last week. And they just didn't make enough plays. The Colts had every opportunity to win this game, and Jacksonville did too. Jacksonville went for it on a 4th down, did not get it. They could have taken the points. They did a lot of questionable shit, did the Jaguars in this game, but luckily enough for them, the Colts they weren't able, just like we've seen during this stretch, they just weren't able to find a way to win. They weren't able to make winning plays in winning time, and the Jags escaped 23-17, hold on to first place in the AFC South Division. But again, they'll need a win in Week 18 over the Titans to secure the secure the AFC South Division crown. And they'll be at home. They should be able to take care of business there. Buccaneers, Dolphins. One of my best friends is a Bucs fan. He thinks they're going to win, make the playoffs, win the division. And I told him yesterday, we were out at dinner on Friday night, and I told him, you're not making the playoffs, bro. And he wasn't trying to hear that shit. And I just like, bro, what have you seen over the last month from your team suggest that you're going to make the playoffs? And his confidence was, to me, it's misguided because he's more so banking on the fact that Carolina won't know how to finish down the stretch than his team will. And I'm like, that's no way to be. You're relying on another team's plight instead of your team taking flight. And today's another example of that. This Buccaneers team has looked like hot ass over the last month. Baker Mayfield has been garbage over the last month. He was awful again today. Turned it over in some critical spots. I just don't know what happened to Baker. It's like he turned into a pumpkin over the last month or so. Like, he's gotten his stuff back. McMillan is back. Mike Evans is back. Chris Godwin is back. Emeka Egbuka is still there. You got all this shit, and you've gotten worse. Baker today, the yards were back. The completion percentage was back. But he also was completing passes to the other team. And these were some egregious interceptions. Triple coverage, throwing up the seam into double cover. Like, what? Wait. What are you doing, Baker? Are you serious right now? 17 points for the Bucs. And just to give you, they had that one game against Atlanta that they should have won where the offense actually looked like it was worth a damn. But listen to this. In the last 6 games, 34-7 loss to the Rams. The following week, they win 20-17 at home against the Arizona Cardinals. Barely beat the Cardinals. Okay. Saints at the crib. They lose to the Saints 24-20. All right. The following week, they lose the game thriller Thursday Night Football to the Falcons 29-28. That's the one game that they actually look like a credible NFL offense. Baker looked good. Everything looked good except they didn't close the show. The following week after that, Panthers, They lose that game 23-20. And then this week they lose 20-17 to the Dolphins of all teams. So what I've basically explained to you is that they haven't scored more than 20 points but one time in the last 6 games. 7 in one contest, 17 in another, and then 20 in all the rest of the games. They're not playing good football right now offensively, and their defense right now isn't good enough to hold them down while they're struggling and trying to figure out whatever funk they're in, how to get out of it. And so these turnovers by Baker, costly. The run game has gone back to non-existent. 16 rushes in this game for 53 yards. It doesn't feel, and I don't know what this whole Rachaad White not getting a football thing is about, but it needs to cease to exist. They really made too many mistakes in this game. Baker Mayfield threw 2 interceptions. Baker Mayfield fumbled twice, lost one of them. So that 3 turnovers he accounted for, and his mistakes were just backbreaking in this game. Backbreaking. On the other side, just quickly, don't want to spend too much time on Miami, but Quinn Ewers looked pretty good. 14-22, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, managed the game well. He took off when he needed to. They had a big scramble at the end of the game when they were trying to run out the clock. Solid performance, man. Again, don't go crazy, but Quinn Ewers in Miami may be solid. We'll see. Seahawks, Panthers, this was a big one. Panthers, with that Bucs loss, all they had to do was win, and they would have won the NFC South. They were in this game against Seattle, but weren't able to make enough plays. Bryce Young was awful in this game. Sam Darnold wasn't much better, but the difference is Sam Darnold's defense better than Bryce Young's defense. Even though Carolina's defense plays tough, plays hard. I've talked about this. I don't know if there's a team that plays harder than Carolina on a weekly basis, but that only gets you so far. Seattle is more talented. Seattle defensively, I think, is more ferocious, and it ultimately played itself out. The run game was the huge catalyst here. It was a nasty day in Carolina. It was wet throughout, cloudy, overcast. But Sam Darnold is, this is why I just, 18-27, 147 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He was sacked 3 times. Sam Darnold was not good in this game, but I digress. Zach Charbonnet was good in this game. 18 carries, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, 15 carries, 51 yards. So the two of them combined for 33 carries, 161 yards. It's over 4 yards a pop. They were both really good in this game. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 9 catches, 72 yards. A.J. Barner had himself a really good game. 3 catches, 43 yards, and a big touchdown that really kind of put this game out of reach. Meanwhile, Bryce Young struggled mightily in this game. 14-24 for 54 yards. And this is the problem with Bryce Young. Bryce Young will have the, 18 of 26 for 205, 2 touchdowns, no interception game. And you go, hell yeah, Bryce. Hell yeah. Then he'll have the game manager Bryce game where he's 14 of 20 for 100 and 57 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception, and it's enough for them to win. You go, all right, Bryce, okay, cool. A couple of scrambles in there that were huge. But then this shit happens, and you go, Bryce, yo, what the F, bro? I can't get jiggy with this shit. What am I supposed to do with 14-24 for 54 yards, bro? That's 2.3 yards per attempt. What am I supposed to do with this shit? I can't get jiggy with this shit. And then you throw an interception on top of that. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. And everything looked like a struggle for him today. It really, now again, Seattle has a really solid defense. It's not elite, But whatever the next step down is from elite, that's where Seattle is. So they cause problems defensively. But Bryce threw an interception. Chuba Hubbard had a fumble. The Panthers just couldn't get out of their own way today. They couldn't get out of their own way. The defense created a turnover, and then Carolina gave it right back. And you're just like, oh, God. They had their opportunities, but this is going to come down to next Saturday night or next Saturday afternoon when they'll have to go to Tampa to try and make themselves NFC South champions. But they're capable. They've already beaten Tampa once. They're capable, and the way Tampa's playing right now, they have a great shot of going in there and winning. But feels like Tampa is going to get their shit together and win this division. But my money's on Carolina. I'm rooting for them like hell, but they're going to have to play better than they played against Seattle. But guess what? Tampa's defense ain't Seattle's defense. So they'll have that going for them next week. But that was a disappointing effort against Seattle with a chance to win the division. Cincinnati lit up the Cardinals 37-14. We don't really need to go through that game. Giants lit up the Raiders. We knew that was going to happen. No Max Crosby, no problem. So now the Raiders, the significance of this game, Raiders are now in the driver's seat for the #1 overall pick. All they got to do is lose to the Chiefs. Easier said than done with the Chiefs, situation set up. But with Geno getting hurt, the chances have increased even more so. All the Raiders have to do is lose again next week, and they will have the #1 pick. Meanwhile, the Giants, it's a devastating win for them as far as draft status is concerned. But we knew this was going to happen. They weren't going to position themselves to have the #1 pick, and they could win again next week against Dallas. They could easily find themselves out of the top 5. So we'll see what the Giants do next week. But the last game we're going to talk about is Eagles-Bills. Wow. This was an intriguing game. Now, weather was definitely a factor in this game. Eagles get the win 13-12, improved to 11-5, and now they have a legitimate shot at the #2 seed in the NFC. Bills also leave this game at 11-5, and with the loss, the Patriots clinched the AFC East division for the first time since Brady left in 2020. So they haven't won the division since 2019. Bills, they got to be kicking themselves. Mistakes doomed them in this game. They had the Josh Allen fumble, which felt like it really turned the game on its head early on. They hit a deep ball to Brandon Cooks early in the game. Weren't able to capitalize off of that. You had the block, and really, to me, what it boiled down to was the block extra point put them in a position where they felt compelled to go for 2 in the win. If you just scored the touchdown, kicked the extra point, all they had to do was score the touchdown, kick the last extra point, and they would have won the game. But Allen's ankle is a concern. It raises the question, do you rest him? Now that you know you can't win the division, if you're Buffalo, you shouldn't really give a shit whether you're the 5th, 6th, or 7th seed. You're going to be on the road. I guess it only matters in theory if somehow, and with the way that this shit is set up this year, maybe it does matter now that I'm kind of talking myself through this. There's parity in both conferences. No one's afraid of Denver if they're the 1 seed. No one's afraid of New England, even though I think they are the more scarier of the two if you're talking Denver, New England. But no one's afraid of a quarterback who's never played a playoff game in Drake May. Like, New England's going to have to earn people's respect. And no one's afraid of Jacksonville. Like, you could theoretically see 2 wildcard teams like Houston, for instance, jump up and bite one of these upper seeds. And if you're Buffalo, you'd rather have the 5th seed, because if the 6th seed or the 7th seed advance to the championship game, shit, you might have a home game that you didn't expect to have. Whereas if you're the 7th seed, it doesn't matter what happens. you can't play at home. So I guess it does matter when you think of it that way, but Josh Allen's health is more important. And that ankle is clearly an issue. But he made enough plays in this game, put his team in a position to win, even though he made some mistakes. He missed some throws, but got him down there, got him into the end zone twice late in the game. And special teams doomed him. And then he doomed the Bills. That 2-point conversion, he'll be seeing that one in his sleep. Got to make that throw. Wide ass open Khalil Shakir back of the end zone. You get the 2, you win the game 14-13. All is right in the world, and you got a chance to win the AFC East next week with a win over the Jets. Instead, he misses a throw that feels like a layup. Got to have it. Always need it. And now you're a wild card for sure. You're probably going to be one anyway. New England was going to win against the Dolphins next week, but you just never know. Family business. You never know how this shit goes. But from the Eagles' perspective, I would have been, because I told y'all the thing that scares me with Philadelphia, the thing that did scare me was they had lost 3 straight, but they had games coming up that would allow them to get their mojo back potentially if the Eagles took advantage. And it started off with the way that I was afraid of, which was against the Raiders. They get a backup quarterback. They jump those boys. They don't score a point. They shut them out. They give up less than 100 yards of total offense. Beat them 31-0. And I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. They get the Commanders the next week. And then I told you, I felt a lot more comfortable after that game because they were struggling with the Commanders. And ultimately, they ran away with the game because Marcus Mariota got hurt. Mariota doesn't get hurt. I still think they win the game, but that game's a lot closer. And I'm not sure that they do win that game if Mariota stays healthy. They were losing at the time that Mariota left the game. That's nor here nor there. They did win the game, and that helps build confidence. I was saying to myself, if they go into Buffalo and they win, here we go. But I didn't feel that way leaving this game. Hurts didn't play particularly well, especially in the second half. Their offense was awful in the second half. At one point, they had less than 20 yards of total offense, and we were late stages of the fourth quarter, right? Now, as much as people like to blame Kevin Patullo for stuff, I got to say, and now your head coach is involved because Patullo ain't the only one calling these plays. He's not doing this shit rogue. Like, your head coach is involved in this shit too because he got involved with the play calling about a month ago. So that shit in the second half was hard to watch for the Eagles. It was basically run, pass, punt. Run, pass, punt. Run, pass, punt. And the run game wasn't working. They were all over Saquon. They were tackling him in the backfield for loss. And Saquon ain't right neither. He dealing with some shit too. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is that offense in the second half, you ain't beating nobody doing that shit. Nobody. And really, the first half offense wasn't that much better. You had the turnover that set up great field position. You scored your only touchdown of the game on that possession. And then, you were able to make a couple of plays here and there, a couple of throws. Hurts had some good throws in the first half, but for the most part, you really ain't do shit on offense. And again, I just don't know who the hell you going to beat. Like, I had conversations with people in the past about how sustainable is it to be blocking kicks and winning games in that fashion? Like, that shit ain't sustainable. That's the second time this season. Now, the Eagles do it better than anybody else in the league, blocking these kicks and shit. So you do have to keep that in the back of their mind. They seem that extra point came out, low trajectory, block, great for Jalen Carter. But you can't be relying on block kicks and holding opponents to 12 points in the playoffs. And when, like, the shit they did against Detroit, the shit they did against Green Bay, the shit they did here, the shit they did against Kansas City earlier, like, I don't anticipate them being, like, try that shit against any NFC West team not named Seattle. Like, I think you can get away with that shit against Seattle. You ain't holding San Francisco to 12 points. You ain't holding the Rams to 12 points. Like, I don't think they can beat anybody in that division. Nobody except for Seattle. That's more likely than not who they're going to have to play, by the way. One of these NFC West teams, Rams, Seahawks, Niners, one of them teams is going to end up, because I think they're going to end up with the 3 seed. One of those teams is going to end up with the 6 seed. And you're going to have to play them in the first round. And let it be San Francisco. I don't think it's going to be San Francisco, but let it be San Francisco. Your ass is going home. Let it be the Rams. Your ass is going home. Because this offense ain't shit. The defense is good, but the defense you can move the ball on this defense. You can move the ball. The Bills had opportunities in this game. It's a good Eagles defense, but it's not great. It's not great. Now, where they are great and they continue to excel is in the red zone. And that'll win you a lot of football games defensively. But this 13-point shit, they've been living on the edge all season long. That's coming to a head in the postseason. That's coming to a head in the postseason. So I said all of that to say this. Big win for Philadelphia. Puts them in a position where they still have a shot at the number 2 seed. Big win. But the second half of this game against the Bills was disgraceful. And you won't win many games doing this. You won't win many games. And this is a theme. This is not like the first time this has happened this year. You couldn't score in this game. You couldn't score against Green Bay. You couldn't score against Detroit. You couldn't score against Chicago. You really didn't score a lot against the Chargers. Like, the second half against Dallas, you scored 0 points. Your offense is flawed. And it's a fatal one. So if your defense doesn't carry you, if your special teams doesn't make some extraordinary plays, you're doomed. That's what it feels like. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. This feels more, and I've said this already, this feels more like 2023 than it does 2024. This feels like an early exit in the postseason because it feels like a house of cards, just like 2023 did. Feels like a house of cards. The only difference is you're going to get a home playoff game, but that shit don't matter because ain't nobody afraid to go into the link no more. But the Denver Broncos went in there and won already. The Rams should have gone in there and won already. The Bears went in there and emasculated you already. The link ain't what it used to be in terms of an advantage. So I'm just looking at it and saying, I can see Jalen Hurts suffering his first home defeat in the postseason this year. I can see that happening. I wouldn't be shocked if Philadelphia won in wild card weekend. It just really depends on the draw. If they play Seattle, they're going to win. They're going to beat the Seahawks, even though that defense is capable of shutting down Philadelphia and not allowing them to do anything. I think Philadelphia's defense would affect Sam Darnold more than Seattle's defense would affect Jalen Hurts. Because Hurts ain't going to throw the bitch away 3-4 times. Sam Darnold will throw that bitch away 3-4 times. With the way Philadelphia's defense can get after him and with the way that secondary can be ball hawks, he'll throw it away 2 or 3 times. He'll give it away, rather, 2 or 3 times. But I don't know, Jim. Yeah, that was a good one, but the Eagles getting away again late. And you can't feel comfortable if you're an Eagles fan. You shouldn't be. I can't tell you how to feel. You shouldn't feel comfortable, is what I would say. You shouldn't feel comfortable with what you're seeing and how these games are going. But I digress. So that's where we are, man. It's what a weekend. What a slate of games. And now we get to do it one final time. While for a fan like myself of a team who was just god awful this year, and you just couldn't wait for it to be over, I'm ready to wave the white flag and see this team one final time. But man, am I going to be sad to see these slate of games, the normalcy, the rhythm of a Sunday. I'm going to hate to see it go, but it went out with a bang, man, because this week's football was fantastic, and I think next week's is going to be even better. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. I'm going to get y'all out of here. I've been talking y'all head off. I know y'all ready to get out of here. So started off with Niners fan. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Niners fan writes, Lou, my defense came through. Boy, did they ever. 2 big stops late in that game. The field goal, and then, of course, the 4th down or the stop as time expired. He said, Brock Purdy playing like a top 5 QB. Look, man, this is, I said this last week. I want to reiterate it because it applies again this week. This is the best stretch of football we've ever seen from Brock Purdy, and it's not close. He says, Shanny, fantastic. You already know how I feel about Shanahan. I've been saying this for years, over a decade now. I hate to say, but we may be the 24 Lions with this as defense, though. Yes, that is a very realistic possibility. And as long as you know you go in with the proper expectations, then you should be good. You could easily be the number 1 seed and get bounced in the divisional round right off of your bye because you don't play good enough defense. Absolutely, you could be. Or that could not happen. Your offense could roll. Your defense could be opportunistic, and you could survive until the cavalry arrives because they told us tonight. So you're telling me there's a chance Fred Warner could be back in the NFC Championship game. So, hey, maybe you just need to hold on for dear life. And maybe you may not have to hold on that much longer. But we know in the postseason, your defense need to be up to par, and your defense don't feel that way. But my defense was ass-tastic last year. We made it all the way to the NFC Championship, bro. So if your offense is like that, and your offense is a lot like how our offense was last year, we couldn't be stopped. Y'all just punted for the first time in the month of December on Sunday. Like, y'all on the same type of time we was on last year. That type of offense that you sporting right now, that's the type of shit that you can ride to the championship game, possibly the Super Bowl. You just need to be able to get some timely stops, maybe force a turnover too. I don't know if y'all got that in you or not. And I know Upton Stout got injured tonight. That ain't good because he's been playing outstanding football for you. So y'all got to figure some shit out. But and I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, Salah going to have to blitz a little bit more. In some crucial situations, he brought a little bit of pressure. Then I saw him, fake the pressure, some faux blitzes. He may have to keep mixing it up like that a little bit just to give the offenses a different look, even though I know he don't really want to, blitz because that ain't his MO. He really don't like putting his back end at risk, but he might have to try some shit because right now, if we keeping it a bean, and you know this, I don't got to tell you this, shit ain't good enough defensively because you don't get pressure on the quarterback. You get these elite quarterbacks, you get these playoff quarterbacks, that type of time that Caleb got tonight, which Caleb is one of these playoffs. You saw what he did. That's what's going to happen. And you can't keep expecting to win these shootouts, 42-38. So, John Perez, my guy, JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Lou, good to see you as always, and happy holidays. Likewise, my guy. Likewise, JP, man. Happy holidays to you and yours. Lots of stuff on the line in Week 18. Yes, sir. Too bad Washington won't be there. I was just having that same conversation with Rio. He was like, man, this shit, it hurts watching all of this ultra competitive football with all of this shit on the line, and we out here playing for pride and shit. It sucks. And specifically in a year like this year where anybody could win the Super Bowl, bro. Anybody could win the Super Bowl. Maybe next year, perhaps. Maybe, but next year, Mahomes might be back with a vengeance next year. Joe Burrow might be in the playoffs next year. Lamar Jackson might be back with a vengeance next year. the whole shit could be different next year. You know, you just never know what it's gonna look like. There's a world we live in where there's no Patrick Mahomes, Josh or Joe Burrow, or Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. Like again, I'm gonna say this again. Whoever comes out of the NFC is gonna be my favorite to win the Super Bowl. Now it's gonna be tough getting out of the NFC because there's a lot of good teams on that side of the bracket. But if you somehow make it out of that scrum, I think you iron sharp as iron, and you're going to be as sharp as you need to be to cut through whatever team comes out of the AFC. That's where my head is, and I could be wrong. But again, it's hard for me to feel like whoever comes out of the NFC is going to be afraid of the Bo Nix-led Denver Broncos, the Drake May-led New England Patriots, the C.J. Stroud-led Houston Texans, or the Trevor Lawrence-led Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, these are the teams, man. These are the teams. These are the teams we talking about in the AFC. Like, I just don't see Josh Allen in the build. They don't look like they have it this year. You just don't. Offensively, it just don't look right. And the weapons, Cooks he's making a difference. A bigger difference than Amari Cooper ever made last year. The problem is they don't even have the same level of play out of the guys that are around. Like last year, they were getting play, like elite level play out of some of the number twos and the other guys. And so they just needed Amari Cooper to be like a legitimate. Cooks looks like I could be that number one for you if you need me to be. I'm not at this point in my career, but I can act like one if you need me to. He made some big plays in that game against Philadelphia today. But Khalil Shakir out here dropping passes. The shit just not clean. They got to go to Shavers for big plays right now. Shavers is having to go climb the ladder and make big plays for them because they can't even count on Khalil Shakir or Josh Palmer, and Keon Coleman can't even be active. Where the hell is Curtis Samuel, right? Is he injured again? Because he's always injured. Like, Buffalo is just in a world of hurt. And then you got the injury to Dalton Kincaid, who's probably been their most consistent pass catcher this season. So I just don't see Buffalo as that team. Like, this is Josh Allen's best shot because all of the demons are out of the mix. And it don't even look like he's ready to take advantage of it. So maybe next year, perhaps. Maybe. All you can do is dream. Dream, dream, dream. That's all you can do, JP, till that time comes around. Tyrone Malone, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Tyrone writes, AP learned absolutely nothing from JL, from John Lynch. Look at how John Lynch built this team versus how AP is building the Commanders. Also, Commanders need to hire Roman as head coach. I can't say he learned absolutely nothing, but everybody's different. Everybody's their own man. So we're going to see what Adam Peters does. But Lynch clearly has a good pulse of what they're looking for, and they do a really good job of getting young players to come in there and contribute right away. So I don't know about Roman as head coach. I don't know about that, but a lot of people been talking about hire this GM, hire this head coach, hire this offensive coordinator, hire this defensive coordinator. We'll see what the offseason brings. Doesn't feel like they're going to be making wholesale changes. Defensive coordinator is the only thing they may be looking for, and I'm not sure that Dan Quinn won't call the plays himself moving forward. Doug Alicious, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, what's up, Lou? What's up, Doug Alicious? Hope you and the fam had a great Christmas likewise. When Mike Tyson said Mike T said cardiac bears, that shit sounded nasty. I'm assuming Mike Tirico. That's who you're talking about. They trying to be us, but set up good can't front. they're not trying to be us. They're just trying to be themselves. It feels like what we did last year, but their shit is more legit, if we're being honest. Now, I don't know if theirs gets all the way to the NFC championship like we did, or even further. But they basically took the script that we had and they improved on it. They improved that shit. We, at no point were we in the discussion for the number 1 seed after we lost 3 straight. We were out of that conversation. We didn't win our division. We had to go on the road. They're going to have a home playoff game, possibly 2 if they get the number 2 seed, assuming that they win the first one. We didn't play a single home playoff game. So they took the shit that we did and they remixed it and they did a better job. Now let's see if the end result is better than ours. We can't hate on the Bears, though. I mean, you can. I can't tell you what to do, but I'm not hating on them. I love seeing the young boys go out there and cook. Let them cook. See what they do. This is the thing. I'm so confident in my young boy. I'm so confident in 5 that I don't have to be jealous of what these young boys out here doing. I'm rooting for these young boys. I know what I got. Only inferior, insecure people root against others to uplift their own, right? That's not me. I know what 5 is. He's one of them ones. I don't have to root for the demise of these other young boys to uplift mine. I'm confident in what we got. No remorse. No buyer's remorse. None of that shit. 5 will be healthy next year, and he'll be back out here on a warpath. I'm rooting for these young boys to see what it looks like. These young boys out here doing their thing, man. They hooping. I want to watch them to continue to hoop. And yes, the Bears are set up really nice. Their roster is outstanding. But we said that when Caleb got drafted. It was the best situation that a rookie quarterback has ever been drafted into. We said that when he was drafted. No name here today. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, it's insane how Hurts is thrown for 0 yards in 2 different halves of 2 different games and to be 2-0. I'd kill for a defense like that for the Commanders. That's the goal, right? Is to build a team that can sustain itself despite your star quarterback not having his best, which we know, again, Hurts isn't capable of carrying a team. We do know this. He's capable of carrying them in stretches, for quarters, for halves, maybe a game, but he's not capable of carrying them as the sole purpose of why they're winning football games. That team is what they've built. That's what they are in Philadelphia. They're a complete team. So he doesn't have to take on the onus of, oh, I got to go out here and throw for 374 yards and 4 touchdowns, because that ain't in his DNA. That ain't what he do. And if he tries to do that, you get the Chargers game, right? We've seen that movie from him in the past. So to not have to do what he's done in those 2 games that you're referencing and then win both of those games speaks to the complete team that the Eagles are. Speaks to the complete team that they are. That's what we're supposed to be striving and try to become, right? Dougalicious, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, for the future, would you prefer us to have an elite offense with JD5 with a mid to subpar defense, or vice versa, an elite defense with a bad offense? I would much rather the latter, the former, rather than the latter. Give me the elite offense with a mid to subpar defense. Like, if we're just not trash on defense, we don't have to be elite defensively. If Jaden Daniels is allowed to be Jaden Daniels, like, just think about it from this standpoint. If you take the 2024 offense that we had and you put it with a marginal, as you said, mid to subpar. So let's just say somewhere from 15th in the league to 19th in the league defensively, right? So that's average to below average. 20th, let's go to 20th, 15th to 20th, somewhere there. You're creating, let's say, the 17th most turnovers, right, in the league. So you're not terrible. You're not great either. And let's say that ultimately, because when Jaden's at his best, he's taking care of the football. Even this year, Jaden took care of the football. Even, with all of the shit that was going on, he still took care of the football for the most part. He's just not a guy that's going to have high turnovers. Say you end up +6, which is crazy for us because last year we were +1, and this year we're like -13, 14, 15, some shit like that. So just imagine being in the plus, like actually in the plus, with a solid defense, nothing that, scares anybody, but an elite offense. We can win a Super Bowl with that, bro. We can win a Super Bowl with that. What's tough, you basically just described the Texans. An elite defense with a bad offense is a little harsh. But you just described the Texans aren't winning the Super Bowl, bro. They're not. Because they just don't have enough on offense. So give me Jaden at an elite level with a defense that's good enough. That'll suffice. Would I like an elite defense? And why can't we have both? Why can't we have, I don't think we'll ever build an elite defense, but why can't we have a really good defense? That's all we need. So that Jaden doesn't have to go out and put on a Superman cape every week. No name here today. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Eagles fans put him in the top 5 talks is nasty work. I mean, look, they got to vouch for their guy, and he's got something that a lot of quarterbacks in the league don't have: Super Bowl MVP, right? They're gonna stand 10 toes down for their guy, as they should. Flaws and all, they got to stand 10 toes down for their guy. He's taking them somewhere that very few in their franchise have. So I don't fault them for that. I ain't glad at them. I ain't mad at them, but I definitely ain't glad at them because we know he ain't top 5, but that's their guy. So CGM 87. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, not rooting for Ben after he was a douche to us. And you have every right to not be a Ben Johnson fan after the way he did us. But that was his choice. He made a decision. He didn't want to rock with us. Cool. I'm going to always have a little extra for Ben in the tank. Always. I'm going to always feel some type of way towards Ben Johnson. But at the end of the day, I don't have that type of animosity for him. I already got my lick back. I got my lick back. But trust and believe, every time I see Ben, it's on sight. But it ain't the type of animosity that, I'm going out of my way. I hope they lose this. I ain't got that kind of energy for Ben Johnson. But when we see him, it's on sight every time. The only time it was ever F Ben Johnson was when he was in Detroit that last year. I'm glad we got to send him off the way that we sent him off from Detroit. That was my lick back. Now the rest of it, anything else that happens is extra. It's extra. He got us this year though. Turned our shit upside down. So, next time we see him, it's gonna be on site, but it's always gonna be that way for me with him. It's always gonna be that way for me. But I'm not rooting for them to lose because of that shit. I have no rooting interest other than I don't want to see the Eagles win a goddamn thing. Outside, I don't give a shit who win, as long as it ain't them. So that is the last super chat, and that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on what was a tremendous weekend of football. These young boys are out here hooping, man. Brock Purdy hooping, Drake May hooping, Caleb Williams hooping. These young boys are out here doing the damn thing, man. This shit is fun to watch. Myles Garrett still hunting after that record. Everybody thought he was going to set this record in a place where nobody was going to get it. Man been stuck on 22 sacks for 3 weeks now. He could not break the record. Something tells me he's going to get it next week in his final game. But he could not break the record, bro. Man was sitting at 22 sacks, just a half sack of breaking the record 3 weeks ago. We thought he was going to get to 27, 28, possibly 30 sacks this season. He may not even break that hoe. He'll get one final chance against the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 18. And if Joe Burrow has anything to say about it, he won't get him either. But that Bengals offensive line stinks. So we'll see if he gets the record or not. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. And then some. Little extra on the side. We learned a lot in Week 17. It set us up for a beautiful Week 18. Enjoy it, because this is it. Now the end is near, and we've reached the final curtain. I really didn't want to see this day come. But we've reached the end. One more week. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless. Niners win an extraordinary game. I think the best of the season. 42-38 thriller on Sunday Night Football to set up a huge number 1 seed matchup with the Seattle Seahawks for a chance for the 49ers to never have to leave home again the rest of the season. Bears fall to 11-5. They're now the 2 seed, have a shot at the 2 seed. All they have to do is win against the Detroit Lions in Week 18, and they'll be your 2 seed in the NFC. Until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. Peace.